Welcome to the Everything Coworking podcast. This is your host, Jamie Russo. So great to be with you today. I have already been on Zoom for many hours today, so hopefully my voice will hang in there. And I've been on Zoom working with co-working space owners like you. And when I work with clients, I see what they're investing in, what they're spending money on, how they're spending their time, who their team is, etc. For those of you who don't know me, I also operated my own co-working spaces for 8 years. I have been in the industry since 2012. So, I have had my own experience, but I don't that was a while ago now. And so I like to bring to you what I'm seeing in the industry. That's one of the reasons you listen to the podcast. So when I notice things that I think need to be shared, I like to share them. So I wrote a newsletter today. If you're not on my newsletter yet and you'd like to be, you can go to everythingcoworking.com/newsletter and sign up. So if you're on the newsletter list, you received this content in your inbox today. And I don't always get a lot of responses. And today I got a pile of responses. So I'm looking forward to covering this content. And if you have any thoughts that you want to share or get off your chest, please send me a note. So what I want to talk about today, so the subject line of the newsletter is stop spending money on these 4 things. They're killing your margins and probably not working. And the email is a little bit of a rant. And I have had 2 people respond, one live on one of my calls today, and then one over email with exceptions to what I've mentioned. And I will say that sometimes I feel like I'm a little down the middle on recommendations. And sometimes I just need to take a stand and be very specific. But there are always exceptions to everything, right? So if you feel like I'm speaking to you, then this email and this podcast are for you. And if you're like, no, this is the experience I've had and it's different from what I'm sharing, awesome. I want that for you and I'm glad. There are always exceptions, right? So, but sometimes in order to get a point across, I have to be direct. So I'll kind of weave in some of those responses as I go. Okay, so the spending money on 4 things. I often see operators investing in things because they feel like that's what business owners do. And 100% you need to have budget for things like marketing. That's the big one. Things like professional development, coaching, upgrading your operations, which today might look like taking some AI classes. But I often see owners, especially new owners who don't really have the budget to be doing this, making these mistakes and spending money on things that don't bring ROI. And it's because they don't know. So sometimes when I write these emails, it's like, hey, this is for you if you're in this right now and you're feeling uncomfortable and you're not sure. But sometimes when we invest in something, it feels uncomfortable because it's an investment and it feels uncomfortable. And we don't know if that discomfort is because, we're kind of leaning into investing in the business or if it's because we're not actually doing the right thing. So sometimes it's hard to know. And when you don't know, ask someone. I think we all, me included, like to feel and act like we know what we're doing. And we don't like to admit when we feel like we're a little in over our heads and we're not really sure about the decisions we've made or what we're spending money on. So the beauty of the co-working industry is that it's very community friendly, transparent. You just want to ask someone who is the right person to ask, someone with experience and context who you think is making good decisions, or ask multiple people. And I run an operator membership. And one of the things I love about that membership is people know each other and they know, backgrounds and they, have decided whether they respect that person's opinion or not. And so when they ask questions and they receive input, they know what to take and what to set aside. And that's really valuable. So make sure you're asking and certainly join our operator membership if that would be valuable to you. So I'm going to go through this list of 4 things and put a little color around them because my email was pretty long, but there's still more to share and color in. So the first thing that I see co-working space operators spend money on that they overspend on is marketing agencies. So I'm not saying that you should never spend money on a marketing agency and that there's not value if you have some experience under your belt. You feel like you're really confident on what levers are going to move the needle in your business, and you have really thought through what you're spending and what the return will be. The challenge with agencies for any small business, not just co-working space operators, and I am talking probably mostly to those of you who own a single location or maybe 1 to 3. Those of you who are scaling, you're probably making different investments, and that makes sense for you. So again, part of the context here. So here's the challenge with agencies. They need to make a margin. Like the agency model can work in order to make, say, a 20% margin for the business overall. The owner of the agency needs to put a 50% markup-ish on the contractors who work for them. So you just have to know that and understand that you're paying a premium versus not always just doing it yourself. I am a chronic DIYer, so I'm not arguing that you should do everything yourself. I am just making sure you are aware of the areas where people tend to feel like they need expert help and they're overpaying for it. So small businesses, especially single location operators, usually cannot afford to hire a marketing agency. What is the return? The concern here, and I should be super clear, this excludes Google ad agencies. I refer to Spacefully. Ruben, thank you, Ruben, for the great work that you and your team do. That's an agency model, and I recommend Ruben all day long. Ruben's team focuses on running ads for co-working spaces, and there is tremendous value in his industry expertise and the expertise that his team builds when he hires them. So he is an absolute exception, and many single location operators should be running ads, and Ruben won't take your money if it doesn't work. One thing I do want to mention, Ruben cannot evaluate the ROI on your spend because he doesn't have your sales data. So make sure you're tracking that. I'm working with a bunch of clients on that right now, is looking at the ROI on the ad spend. Are they getting an ROI on every campaign that they're running? So they might be it's easy to get an ROI on offices. What about event space? What about meeting rooms? So make sure that you're tracking the ROI, but that's a big exclusion. Where I see people usually not get the return is I've hired an agency to redo my website. I've hired an agency to do SEO on my website. I've hired an agency to do something else that social media, which we'll talk about a little bit lower down. One response I did get from Taylor Mason, a friend and colleague, he said, I feel like, you're talking about me here. Yes, and Taylor does content marketing. I guess his model is agency-like. Probably depends on, what service he's providing. He does work with a team. I work with a team too. I don't think of myself as in running an agency, but certainly I have team members who do some work on behalf of our clients sometimes. So again, always exceptions, but tailored services don't make sense for everyone either. Outsourcing expert content marketing and having it done for you, lots of single unit operators would not see a return on that. But that is also why Taylor sells courses on how to do content marketing for your single location, right? So he's segmenting. And for some of you, it might make sense. But I think if you come to the industry and you don't have a marketing background, it can be challenging to parse out what investments make sense and what don't. I would encourage you. It's a hospitality business, 100%. It's a community building business. But before you can offer hospitality or community, you have to have members. And in order to get members, you have to acquire them. And that is a sales and marketing function. Study sales and marketing, listen to some podcasts, read some books. I have an MBA in marketing and finance. So I have been studying it for a long time. And many of my roles, I have had sort of, ops roles, but always a marketing layer in what I do. So I think about it all the time and I love it. And that's an advantage if you're coming to this business with a marketing background. If you don't, you need to have some. You need to get some. You don't need to take college classes. You need to find some good podcasts, books, newsletters, and study marketing. Study marketing for small businesses. You know what I love is Donald Miller. His book is Building a Story Brand. He has a couple of podcasts, I think. And I can't remember what his podcast is called right now, but look for him on wherever you get your podcasts and listen to his podcast. That's a good one to start with because if it's still how it was. He had it maybe you can't still listen. Anyway, find his content. His content is great for small businesses. Historically, it's been pretty broad. Read all of his books or listen to them. If you listen to them, you're probably going to need to buy them because they're kind of like reference material. Those are great, like 101 marketing books. That would be my suggestion is start there. Because if you understand marketing, you will be better equipped to know who to hire. I do a lot of hiring on Upwork. So the great thing about Upwork, go check it out if you've never been on there before. I think of it as like Amazon for freelancers. And I think of it that way because it's a marketplace and the freelancers get reviewed. You still have to be a little bit careful because sometimes I think the reviews are fake or from friends or whatever. Sometimes they have stars but no written reviews. But if you are a little bit diligent, you can get some really great talent. I mean, a huge spectrum of really good talent from basic SEO work. When I was the executive director of the GWA, I had a pretty complex market research study done and hired the person to do that from Upwork. And she was amazing. I've only had a couple of bad experiences on Upwork. And the great news is it's super easy to be done, because you're hiring through the platform, you're paying through the platform. And if it's not working out, then you just end the contract. So if you know what you're doing and what you're looking for, then you can outsource at an individual level versus having to hire an agency. So SEO is an example of that. I think hiring SEO to be done by an agency is challenging today with AI. So not everybody's an AI fan. As a business owner, I am. I'm also an Enneagram 3, so anything that's more efficient and cost effective, I'm in. And Claude Cowork now has an SEO audit tool on it. And my assessment is it's pretty good. I am not an SEO expert, so it's hard to fully evaluate, but you can get pretty far with tools like that and then adding in someone from Upwork. And listen to a couple of podcasts on SEO, watch some YouTube videos, give yourself a little 101 on SEO for local businesses. So this is really if I really want to get to the bottom line about why marketing agencies are challenging, one is that you're already paying a premium, and two, they probably know nothing about local business marketing. They don't understand that your Google business profile is really critical and that 80% of your organic leads are going to hit that listing first. So how are they helping you optimize it? How are they helping you update it? What are they providing you in that realm? And if they're not, then again, what is the ROI? Agency websites tend to be totally off the mark. They're beautiful, but don't drive the user to the right actions. I can't count how many times I've now seen a home button on the homepage of a website. I'm just going to be really direct. Are we in the 90s? You don't need a home button. The logo is the home button. And nobody's trying to go home, right? They're trying to find certain things on a website. And that's the other thing you want to get really comfortable with is looking at your data. What pages are clients going to on your website? How much traffic is your website getting? If you're running ads, what percentage of your traffic is, organic versus from Ads, you have to be the quarterback on these things. And if you're scaling, if you are getting to the 3 to 5 location level, then you do need to start outsourcing marketing. You're not going to be able to do it all yourself, but by that point, you should know enough to know who you're hiring and evaluate who you're hiring. And even then, I would still think pretty hard about whether you want an agency because of, again, that 50% markup on the time for those resources. Okay, I'm moving on. The second thing that I see co-working space operators pay too much for, IT retainers. Look, I will tell you that one of my most prominent memories in co-working is when I first started. I was in Chicago in an up and coming neighborhood, which is now Fulton Market. If you know Chicago, it is like the hottest neighborhood in the city. But when I was there, there was no fiber. We had Comcast, and there was something wrong with the lines, and it was totally out of my control. I was making cookies and then Comcast doesn't send its own employees to fix things. It's contracted out. You can't get in touch. It's so painful, so out of my control. I was doing everything I could, though, to make friends with the contractors who came, and it was very stressful. And we would have like blips during the day. Well, I had like a 4-person team, which was a big deal. I had just opened a 4-person team. They're not even in an office. I think they had dedicated desks, which amazing. And they left because we had a couple of bad internet days. And I totally get it, right? But I can remember sitting in my car crying because they left and I could not control it. There's nothing I could do. And I was, new, hated to lose the revenue. It was super stressful. And when you're in those moments, will do just about anything to make that problem go away, right? And no, I'm not an IT expert. I will tell you I'm an Enneagram 3, and I tend to be overconfident about the things that I'm good at. But here's what I see. Again, when I say single location, look, if you have 40,000 square feet in that single location and you have, 100 people showing up at the office every day, then yes, you might need somebody on retainer who can problem solve. You might need some sort of, IT support that you can refer people to. I totally get it. If you're a high service level location, I think the Hoxton in Chicago has like a part-time IT resource. That may be because they attract some enterprise folks who expect to have support if they need it. But look, in general, if you're a smaller space and you have one location, you should be able to set up your network with a really strong IT resource and buy the right equipment with the right licenses. I'm talking like a Ubiquiti, a Meraki, where you have complete transparency into what's happening on your network. And you should be able to train your community team to troubleshoot. And then when it doesn't work, they call Meraki first. And then you can have an IT person on staff. Again, if you have multiple locations and you have a lot going on from a security perspective, and you need to make sure like the internet is like, I did a lot of work with Pacific Workplaces. They had an IT person on staff. They had 20 locations, maybe 18 at the time. And they have more now. And that was a tremendous resource to me. They were upstairs. We had a partnership, and I loved having access to that. But I probably didn't really need it, and it was a line item on my P&L that ate into my margin. Again, it was great peace of mind. And that's the other thing I want to mention. Some of you would prefer to pay just to sleep better at night. And if you don't mind the margin erosion, even though probably you're not going to use this IT retainer, then totally fine. And some of you are doing it because it's very unclear to you what you're paying for, and you don't want to listen to the story brand books. You don't want to read about Meraki, like you just want it off of your plate. I totally get it. So that is also completely up to you. So again, my newsletter is not for you. If you just want to pay to get things off of your plate and you're okay that it erodes your margin, but you don't have to think about it, and you can, tour the country, or you can focus more on your other businesses that are more profitable. There are lots of reasons you would make different decisions than what I'm outlining today. I just like to get you to think about what you're doing and does it make sense for you? That's why you're listening to the podcast, because you want to be evaluating your business and knowing what could you do differently or, keep doing the same. So again, the thing to do with the IT is invest up front. Ideally, you have a guy who will be on, who will come over if you have an issue. Usually the issues are the ISP, which is if you have fiber, that almost never happens. And you probably have a backup. So if the fiber goes down, there's like a 1% chance the fiber is going to go down. You have a backup. And then your equipment is going to wear out over time and need to be replaced. I remember in my Chicago space, we had at the time, I don't know if this still even happens with the equipment, the microwave was interfering with one of the access points. And I didn't know that. I couldn't figure it out, right? But I had an IT guy who I would pay an hourly rate who would show up and take care of it for me. So sometimes it's also just being willing to hustle to build those relationships so that it's not on your P&L every month. Again, if that's a headache you just don't want, totally fine. Pay their retainer. I will say, if you are opening a co-working space, I usually offer free of charge to evaluate IT proposals that new operator, I'm sorry, not if you're not in my co-working startup school, but if you go through my co-working startup school, one of the things I try to offer is, hey, when you get your quote for the internet equipment, please give it to me. Because again, without industry expertise, most local IT teams are used to speccing businesses where the employees are the employees, right? They're part of the same team. And there's some, bigger company footing the bill for everything that they want to install. And they totally overspec the whole project and it's wildly expensive. IT today is an investment. The security required, you still want to wire. It is not inexpensive to set up IT for co-working spaces if you are, kind of going all in the IT setup. So, but I see probably 75% of the time, maybe even more, it's completely overspec'd and way over what you should be budgeting. And we provide budgets and sample IT specs by co-working space size in our co-working startup school to try to help people know what they're looking at. So, little side note there. Okay, the third thing I see people paying for, I think you should spend zero money on social media. Again, I had immediately after I sent my email this morning, had a call with our Profit Accelerator group. And one of our members said, hey, you remember I have this social media manager and I think she's actually doing a great job. And I was like, oh my gosh, right. You are a great exception. And she did say, she knew nothing about the industry when she started. So I had to really monitor her and give her feedback. And now she understands and she's great. And she's in a really small market. I can't remember what the population of her town is. I won't give her away by saying the town, but it's pretty small, maybe 20,000 people. So when you're in a small market, social media can matter, but you need to track to see if it's driving leads. I was looking at Google Analytics with another client today who desperately wants to spend more money on social media. And she said, oh, so can I see where my leads come from when we do more social media? I was like, oh, yes, you can, but then you probably won't see them. And that's only website visits, right? It's really hard to track leads through the full buying cycle. It's just hard, right? You can get some sense. So mostly you are using social media to engage with members, to engage in other local businesses. You might get leads from it. You might, but you need to test that and track. You need to track the traffic. You need to know how people found you. Most people, some are, but most people are not searching for co-working on Instagram or even LinkedIn. Although LinkedIn outbound, Flex Uncensored has an interview with Luke Wills, is a big opportunity. So it depends, but that's different. That is outbound prospecting. That is not social. That is direct sales, basically. So, and also Kevin Whalen recently shared that he had a client who did sell a team office on TikTok. So never say never, but typically for most spaces, your clients are not finding you on social. They're finding you by running Google Ads. Back to my recommendation at the top of this podcast. Okay, the fourth thing that you are probably overspending on is a custom website. I'm not saying that you should not customize a template to work for your business, but I think when people start, they have this idea that they should spend $20,000 to put up a website. I do not think that you should. Again, you may, and if that is how you want to spend your money, go for it. But if it is because you don't know how much websites cost and you think that this is what it takes to put up a website that converts, that's not accurate. I do think it's very hard today to get a website built for under $5,000 unless you can do it yourself. And one of these examples that I shared, definitely two of them. One of them did it. And you know what? Yes, I did. Well, now I can't remember exactly who I shared. I want to give a shout out to Gravitate Coworking. I think they have an excellent website and they have a team member who did it. And Spoke Coworking in Tucson, one of the owners is very technical and savvy, and he built their website. Of course, I'm not calculating the time they spent, etc. But we build websites for clients. We are building, let's see, two of the websites we built were built in CoLevel, which is the CRM that I love to use with clients. And there's website templates in there, and I have some great team members, not full-time team members, who do great design work. I think the value here, the argument, around this is, again, if you don't have a marketing background, then it's going to be challenging for you to direct this process. But you should try. And you should try to find somebody in your network who is good at building websites that convert, not beautiful websites. Of course, if you're a brand, I know you want a beautiful website. That means you also have to have really beautiful photography. And you need to have a beautiful modern logo. So there are a lot of things that go into this, and those also can cost you money. Although what I would propose is that you start with a pretty straightforward, simple website. And I included a few that I think are done very well. And my team had a hand in these that convert. Katie Elite Suites, CoSpace at the Milky Way, CoSpace Indy, and Co4 Workspace in Kaukauna, Wisconsin. They're very straightforward. They're not there to, the aesthetics are important depending on the brand, and they are built with a user journey that we know works and converts. So, for example, we tend to see that co-working spaces that have pricing in their nav bar get a lot of traffic to the pricing page, because do you know what people want to know when they come to your website? How much does it cost to join your space? And again, brands will make decisions about not including pricing on their website. That can be a limiting factor because a lot of people don't want to shop and not know what they're paying. There are premium brands who don't share their pricing. Kiln is one. Kiln is so beautiful that, yes, if you care about the aesthetics, then you're going to tour and you may say, take my money. I don't care what it costs to work here. But in a lot of markets, people care about pricing and they need to at least know a starting at point. So it's just an example, but the pricing on the nav tends to be really important. Again, I think unless you are working with someone who is an expert at building high-end co-working websites and they can tell you with evidence that they convert, spending, 20 grand on a site is probably overspending for your first site and your first location. Again, if you're a multi-site operator and you're still listening along, you might have invested that amount. And when it makes sense to invest that amount, just because if you're totally new to doing this, that may include copywriting, SEO work, the site structure, like a lot of aspects that go into building a really strong website. And unless you're using a co-working specific template, like the one that I love to use in CoLevel, then that's not going to be second nature for a web developer who has never done a co-working website before. So I know Ruben's team from Spacefully does custom website work, and sometimes the custom website work makes sense. And I myself use Ruben to do a lot of strategy work about how my website should be set up. So it can make sense when you feel confident that you know what you're looking for and what the return is for the investment. But again, if you're starting out with the $20,000 website with an agency, probably because you need the copywriting, and you're not using someone who is experienced in co-working, almost every time I see pretty massive departures from what actually drives conversion. So please be careful. So, okay, the bottom line is you want to really understand what you're spending, who you're spending it with, and what the return is. And make sure that there's an impact and that it's at a time in your business when it's not going to negatively impact your margins and you can't pay yourself, for example. Sometimes we have to do things ourselves. Sometimes we have to learn. Don't run Google ads yourself, but you could do some research on Google Ads, watch some videos, and then you understand, what's this person going to do that I'm hiring? What's a good Google ad manager? Because you don't know, right? If you've never run them, and I'm telling you, don't do that. They're very hard to learn. It's too expensive to be bad at Google Ads. There's too much opportunity cost. I have a client who I love and adore, and he just confessed that he's trying to run his own Google ads, and he's getting all these errors, and they worked for a day, and then they stopped working. Meanwhile, he's launching a new space, and his offices are sitting empty. So he also said, well, you mentioned Upwork, and this is why I know this is challenging. Feel free to send me a note if you have a quick question, or you know what? Don't send me a note. Join our operator membership and ask the questions. Our operator membership is $97 a month, and I will answer any question that you put in our community. I don't answer questions in our free Facebook group because it's free, and I want to invest my time in people who are investing in running successful businesses. $97 a month. I'll answer any question that you have. So he said, hey, you mentioned Upwork. So I found somebody on Upwork. They're $1,500 a month. And I said, okay, please call Ruben because that sounds high and we want you to use somebody who is co-working specific. And Ruben, again, will do a blueprint for you and tell you whether or not you're a good fit for ads and what the return will look like. And then I'll make sure you know how to measure them so that you can track. So anyway, lots of exceptions, and I have not provided, every solution for everything in here. If you're struggling with some of these decisions, join our community. We can talk about it. If you are spending on something and, you want to, get it off of your chest, or you are spending on something that I've mentioned and you think it's a great ROI and you want to share your experience, send me an email, subscribe to the newsletter, everythingcoworking.com/newsletter. And on the next episode, we're going to talk about things that you should be investing in as an operator who wants to be successful. So great to have you this week. And we'll see you again, same time, same place next week.